get started with an opening statement from Coach, then go into questions. If you have a question, go ahead, raise your hand, get my attention, and I'll call on you. Coach?
Yeah, exciting time of year. We've started our Tulane prep. Little bit of a hybrid week. Still working through the install for prep for Tulane, but also staying really focused on making sure that we have a lot of competitive periods throughout practice. Continue to improve, continue to, really allow some of the depth chart and competitive areas of our team continue to play out. But excited about where this team's at. Today was not our best practice at camp. But the thing I love about this team and love about our leadership is they own that, they understand that, they're excited for the next opportunity. I think the thing that continues to show up as we progress is the competitive nature of this football team, the back and forth between our offense and defense, period by period, situation by situation. One side of the football can be getting after the other one, and the response of the other side of the football is something I'm really excited about. We use the cliche of playing complementary football, but now more than ever, I feel like we got a football team that's built to do just that. Excited to continue our preparation for Tulane. Really good football team as we continue to dive in from our summer work on these guys and continue to fine-tune the game plan. It's very evident and very clear that this is a well-coached team with really good personnel, and we're going to be playing in a difficult environment on the road. So, awesome challenge for this football team kicking off the season on August 30th.
You mentioned the depth chart and still a few spots. Can you kind of characterize in terms of, is it a lot of spots that's still undecided? They're still kind of up for grabs?
Yeah, Dave, anytime there's, a level of uncertainty of who's starting at a position, that can certainly be a bad thing, or it can be a good problem to have. And I would characterize ours right now as good problems. I mean, just the fact that we have some really good competitive depth at some spots. A couple positions on the offensive line that are still working themselves out, but it's because we feel confident in more than just five. Excited for our tight end room to continue to work itself out in terms of how those guys are utilized. We're excited about the depth in that room and the diverse skill sets in that room. Ultimately, the defensive line is one of our deepest rooms in the entire program. But continuing to hone in on what that looks like and, who's going to be taken. We rotate regardless, but, who's that fourth defensive tackle, that fifth defensive tackle that's making the trip and going to be rotating in. But excited that it's a lack of clarity from a standpoint of guys are really competing and improving.
Coach, considering the current landscape of college football, house settlement, pending roster limits, how do you start to put in perspective what Carmine's been able to accomplish with this program as a former walk-on, two-time captain, now getting that #1 jersey this past weekend?
Yeah. It's what makes college football so special. And in the new landscape of college football, I've had this conversation with multiple people. Those are elements that we can't lose. Carmine just embodies everything that this program's about, everything that college football should be about. A guy that made a decision to, trust himself, believe in himself, come here as a walk-on, earned a scholarship, became one of the most critical pieces of our defensive line, earned all of that, and none of it was given. And then, to have the honor to be a captain and then be voted upon, from his teammates to be voted as #1. It's a reflection of Carmine, and that's something as a program we need to, even in the new landscape, we need to continue to find guys like Carmine Bastone that are tough, resilient, love football, want to be coached hard, and maybe just haven't blossomed as early as others and turned themselves into really, really good Big Ten football players, and that's exactly what Carmine has done.
Matt?
Coach, when you mentioned ongoing position battles, you didn't mention linebacker. Braydon Brus looked like he was running with the ones in spring. Is he your starting linebacker next to Mac for Tulane?
Yeah, we expect Braydon to start at Will Force.
And then at what point in kind of the past or I guess off season, I should say. When was that decision made, and what do you think he showed you during practice to?
Yeah, Matt, I don't know if there was a specific date that decision was made. He's just continued to improve. We've known Braydon for a long time from a skill set standpoint. His explosiveness, his speed are things that really differentiate him as a will linebacker. You can just tell that Braydon, as he's progressed through spring, throughout the summer and fall, is just becoming more and more comfortable. It's really something I don't think we made the decision, he did, just by his consistent performance.
Colleen?
Coach, I know you've talked before about the difficult strength of schedule this year for you guys. What have you told your players just about how they should kind of view that challenge ahead?
Yeah, it's good. What an incredible challenge, and something we'll lean into here is the underdog mentality and chip on our shoulder, and are going to have to outwork people. But we've been bold about that, Name our preseason ranking in the Big Ten. Name what people are saying the over/under is for our win total. People want to talk about our strength of schedule. People want to talk about, what a difficult, challenge going down to Tulane on the road is going to be. Good, we want that. We've made this off season, this spring ball, summer and fall camp, the most challenging it's ever been, and making sure that we're preparing this group for that strength of schedule. I think it's something that this group embraces, with an attitude of humility, but also an attitude of, bring on the competition.
Coach, you've talked a lot about the competitive depth within the offensive line room. Can you give a little bit of an update on how that competition is going and, who you expect to come out there with the starters against Tulane? Yeah,
I mean, two guys that, have been in the program for a long time, and Caleb Tiernan and Jackson Carcello are going to be absolute staples of that group. Really excited about what's going on inside with some competitive depth. Mo played quite a bit for us at the back end of last year at left guard. He continues to really improve. Evan Bernstein at right guard is someone who's been an incredible addition. I think where the question mark still exists is at right tackle in terms of how we maximize that starting five with some guys that are position flexible. Martez Lewis has played both guard and tackle in the Big Ten. Deuce McGuire, very position flexible. Xavier Gray has been someone that's been a great addition to the roster. So, really just kind of figuring out what the right combination is and really solidifying who's going to be playing or coming out the first series with the offense at right tackle.
Coach, Ricky's a guy who has been hampered by injuries through a lot of his career here. What have you seen from him just throughout fall camp, and how is he really starting to establish himself in that wide receiver room this year?
Ton of consistency out of him. A lot of flashes out of Ricky in the past, but his consistency has definitely stood out. His physicality has stood out. Making contested catches is something that has shown up throughout fall camp, which is really exciting. I think Preston really trusts Ricky, knows where he's going to be at. And I already mentioned it, but his special teams value is through the roof. He's someone that Paul Creighton would acknowledge as one of our most valuable assets as a special teams player as well.
Coach, you've spoken very frequently this offseason about how the process and the structure within the program is night and day from last year. We can see, the usage of the winter transfer window and, the hiring of Christian Sarkisian, the house settlement, but, from inside the program, from your perspective, what are the things that you've seen that have been the biggest changes that you think are going to lead to wins on the field?
Yeah, ultimately the things that we can control is our process and, our standards, and standards relate to consistent behavior. And the thing that I've seen tangibly that's been most powerful is, you can talk about how critical it is to have a player-led team, but is that actually what's happening? And the level of leadership on this football team, the willingness to have hard conversations with one another and hold each other accountable, hold each other to a certain standard. And then from a process standpoint, you mentioned, the utilization of the transfer portal and bringing guys in the winter quarter. A lot of that comes back to, just us as a program acknowledging that college football has been flipped on its head and we have to reimagine everything and evaluate everything. And we've been willing to do that, but we can't get complacent with that. That's something that we have to be doing daily. I've challenged myself to do that. I feel like, I'm surrounded by people like Christian Sarkisian and great coordinators, a great staff, great support staff, that we got to keep pushing the envelope with that.
In the past, your linebackers, or at least your Mike and Will linebackers, have been every down players. Now, you haven't rotated through those positions, but you also brought in 2 experienced transfers in Yanni Karlaftis and Jack Sadowski. So, assuming that you're going to continue to keep that every down mindset with Mac and Braydon, what are Yanni and Jack's roles in your defense this year?
Yeah, Yanni and Jack will play critical roles. Ultimately, 2 big physical linebackers that can run are going to have a critical role on special teams. Yanni specifically, who's been here longer than Jack, is someone that we would not blink if he's out there taking a ton of snaps with the defense. Based on the personnel grouping that we're getting out of the offense, we could see a ton of Yanni. And Jack is really starting to find his groove. This is not an easy defense to pick up over the course of a summer into fall camp. I've been really impressed with his growth throughout the last couple weeks, and guys that we brought in here for a reason to play a lot of football for us, and I anticipate both those guys being huge contributors both on special teams and, I don't see us rotating at the linebacker position, but we can find roles for those guys, whether it's depth on defense or it's based on the personnel that we're seeing from our opponent.
So based on that, would you say that Yanni is is Yanni going to be your starter at Sam and kind of the role that Kenny Soares played last year? Is that him this year?
I could see that being a huge role for him, and that's what we have to continue to evaluate too. Is in base when we are getting 12, 13 personnel, like how's our opponent utilizing that? I mean, is it are they diverse in their formations out of it? Are they utilizing a certain tight end more in the passing game than another? But Yanni has repped significantly at Sam and proven that he's worthy of playing a ton of football for us there.
Coach, from a leadership perspective, one constant through your first 2 years was Xander Mueller out there on the defensive end, sort of the heart and soul of that defense. Now that he's graduated, who are some of the guys that you're seeing really step up and take on accountability as vocal leaders of that defense?
Yeah, Mueller, special leader, special football player, fired up that he's with the Chiefs, keeping our fingers crossed that that's something that turns into a really positive for him. You mentioned Mueller, so I'm going to talk about him. Any NFL organization that doesn't see that as someone that can be a huge asset to their organization's crazy, in my opinion. The vocal leaders that have really stepped up, Mac Uline has taken on a very vocal role. Carmine Bastone, Cam Porter, Anto Saka, Preston Stone, as he's continued to just build more and more relationships on this team and gotten more and more comfortable. His vocal leadership has been critical. And Caleb Tiernan is not naturally by personality someone that's going to be the most vocal person in the room, but seeing his leadership really step up here over the summer has been critical for our offensive line room.
Coach, Tulane is currently in a 4-man quarterback competition. How do you go about preparing for a matchup like that when not only have none of those 4 guys been on tape before for Tulane, but you just simply have no idea who's going to be out there, and the only ones that you've actually played against is Brendan Sullivan? Yeah,
ultimately you got to prepare for them all and understand their strengths, and a little bit of it's guesswork in terms of how they might be utilized within the offense, but one of the unique challenges of preparing for a week 1 opponent, especially with so much turnover on the roster.
You mentioned in an interview with NBC Chicago that your team was a little dinged up. Are there any players that you expect to miss Tulane or extended time based on injury in fall camp?
Yeah, dinged up from a fall camp perspective, but knowing at this point that we anticipate that affecting their availability for Tulane.
Colleen?
What stood out to you about Griffin Wild over the last few weeks, I guess, in practices?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, incredible route runner, really good with the ball in there in terms of being able to track it, and when it's a competitive ball in there where it's like a 50-50 ball, his ability to come down with it. Griffin is one of those guys that lets his play do the talking. Like, one thing I've really appreciated about him, and if it's 3rd and 11 in a critical situation, that dude some way somehow is going to find a way to make a play. His consistency, his competitiveness, all things that really stand out to me. And I know I've been outspoken, very productive at South Dakota State. Ultimately, a wide receiver room that is unproven. And, I think he kind of wears that as a badge of honor. Like, I'm going to go to work and I'm going to prove that not only can I play at this level, but I can absolutely thrive at this level. And from what we've seen out of practice, that is certainly what's on the horizon for him.
Last question, Gavin.
Coach, the Big Ten has reportedly been pushing toward a further playoff expansion, maybe 16 teams, 20, even 24 has been thrown out. As somebody who's coached at the FCS level where that already has that expanded playoff, from your perspective, how big is too big? And, just what are your thoughts on the seemingly constant, continuous push to keep expanding the FBS college football playoff?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's more meaningful games as the season goes along. I think it provides opportunities for programs that, maybe have developmental nature, or in a world of a transfer portal where you're trying to bring a team together in a short amount of time. An expanded playoff system rewards teams that are playing their best football late in the season. And, from an FCS background, that was one thing that, making the transition to the highest level of college football and coaching the Big Ten, I knew as a competitor I was going to miss. Like, this element of, man, if you can be playing your best football at the end of the season and make it into the tournament, you're going to give yourself a chance. A lot of meaningful games on the back half of the season. And there's something really special about playoff football. We experienced that, even just as fans of the games. We experienced that last year. But I think an expanded opportunity and format is something that's good for college football.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right. On the right, Ricky Ahumaraeze. On the left, Caleb Tiernan. We'll go right into questions for them. If you have a question, go ahead, raise your hand, get my attention. Make sure you address your question to either Ricky or Caleb. Jake?
Ricky, there's been a lot of talk of this wide receiver room having a chip on its shoulder this year. What do you hope to prove? What do you and your teammates hope to prove as you head into the season?
Yeah, so, we're a hardworking group. We're very competitive, even though, we're very competitive, but we want the best for each other. Man, we go out there every day, fight for the better of the team, and we're all playing with, like you said, the chip on our shoulder. We all just want to do as best as we can to help with this team win and stuff. So yeah.
Caleb, Coach has talked a lot about the competition on the offensive line, and you've been one guy who's kind of been locked in, but all the other spots kind of up for grabs. What's that been like to be a part of and to see that develop in your room?
Yeah, I think that's amazing to have competition in our room. Especially since, I've been here. This is probably the most filled the room has ever been. Just also with the amount of numbers, but also the amount of depth that we have. And with everyone competing, it's bringing up that entire room. I think that you're going to see that this fall.
Caleb, one of the big stories this offseason was Northwestern being able to use the winter transfer portal to, get a lot of experience in the offensive line. Going from, last spring having just 7 guys on the offensive line in the training camp to now, seemingly a full slate with a lot of experience in there. How much has that extra time together, really affected your cohesion as a group heading into the season?
Yeah, offensive line is one of those groups where it's got to be the tightest on the entire team, or else the team's not going to go that far. And I think getting those guys in the winter and having, winter workouts, spring ball, summer, all that has been amazing. I know, especially in the winter, we got together almost every Friday night as an O-line trying to do things together, just because we know how important cohesion in that room comes to winning games in the fall.
For both of you, maybe, Coach has talked a lot about how he's trying to raise the level of accountability and raise the standard within the program. How have you kind of seen that show up, maybe just in practices or in camp?
I'll start. I would say the competition. We do a lot of competitive, just one-on-one stuff through sporadically through practice, and it just helps everyone just get better, iron sharpening iron, and we just all set the tone at practice through these little drills and stuff. So it's just like helping us get better and like raising the roof of just competition and just being competitive at like all aspects, every position. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think along those lines also, as far as accountability, I think especially in the winter we focused on about leadership. As far as, there may be a couple leaders on the team, but everyone's a leader, whether you're a freshman, sixth year, some seventh years. And I think that's something that we focused on the entire winter, entire spring. And I feel like just with everyone playing a role in leadership, it's really raised the accountability across the entire team.
For Ricky, redshirted your first season and then you were injured early last year. How do you set standards for what a successful season looks like this year and what is hopefully your first year healthy?
My goal is just to stay healthy and play as hard as I can for as long as I can. I just really want to show what I can do, and yeah, it's just really staying healthy because I know that's the biggest thing with playing this sport. So yeah.
Caleb, one guy who you've been here throughout his entire career is Carmine. I mean, what was your reaction to see him earn that number 1 jersey and like just to see all the work that he's put in to pretty much earn everything that he's accomplished with this program?
Yeah, Carmine's amazing, and I know you guys will talk to him next, but, he's my guy, and it's funny, a couple weeks back they did like those throwback pictures and just kind of seeing how I looked and seeing how Carmine looked, and, I think Najee was on there. And really my entire class, we came in extremely close, and I feel like it was amazing for everyone in that class because, we've had some guys transfer out, some guys stay, and just seeing someone from our class, walk on that earned everything, is just, it makes us extremely proud.
Ricky, Coach Braun had said that it really seems like Preston Stone has started to trust you as kind of a jump ball receiver. In a couple months of working together, what has your connection with him been like, and how have you two worked to build that on and off the field?
Yeah, Preston, yeah, he's a great quarterback. Me and him, here and there, go out and we always get catches whenever it's just free time. It's, some Saturdays we'll go and just go play catch and stuff, and just little things, just building that little chemistry because he's coming from SMU and everything. So yeah, we just want to really build the chemistry that we have just throughout these little drills and just stuff that we do on our free time after practice and just on random days. So yeah.
Ricky, again, kind of the point of this being, your first healthy season, you have an opportunity with a new veteran quarterback. What has some of the feedback been from Preston, working with him as someone, again, with a lot of experience versus you as a younger player, and what do you feel are the strengths of your game for this season?
With Preston, he knows ball. I would say that. He, after plays and stuff, he would, just tell me, what he's looking at, what he's reading, and, he helps me, put myself in a position to get the ball from him. And, yeah, I just mean my strengths, I feel like it will show on tape, and I don't really have much to say about that. So, yeah.
Caleb, at Big Ten Media Days, Anto Soccer called you the best tackle in the country. What's it like, playing against a guy like him and I believe Ricky said iron sharpens iron. How have you two made each other better, throughout the last couple of years and then especially leading into this season? Yeah.
I'll also say I think Anto is the best defensive end in the country. So, trust me, that guy's, he's really special. And I think that iron sharpens iron plays a part on the field, but I think it also plays a part off the field. And, since winter, spring ball, summer workouts, knowing that they have a guy of that caliber on that defensive line has, pushed everyone on the offensive line to raise their standards. And it's just, I think it's going to look really good in the fall.
Ricky, what stands out to you about the addition of a guy like Griffin to the wide receiver room?
Yeah, Griffin, he could really do everything. I'll say Griffin's a really good receiver. He's very versatile. He can go deep and help us spread out the route tree. So yeah, he's just very versatile, and he could do it all.
Last one, Colleen.
Also for both of you, a lot of people have talked about how difficult your strength of schedule is this year. How do you guys kind of view that challenge?
I'll take this one. We're excited about it. I know Braun has been very vocal about, good. That's, is one word they says all the time. And I think that's really how we all feel. If we want to compete for a national championship, we got to beat national championship caliber teams. We can't play, lower schools and then somehow expect to become a national champion. And I think just, getting the schedule, some on the outside may think like, oh, that's not good for them. But, we love it. We love the challenge. Our entire camp has been about competition. And I think it's just going to be really exciting to play, some of the top teams in the country.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Guys, we doing?
On the far right, we've got Carmine Bastone. On the left, we got Braydon Brus. Same thing. Go ahead, raise your hand, get my attention, and make sure you direct your question to Carmine or Braydon. Jake?
Carmine, what was your initial reaction to earning that #1 jersey, and what does that accomplishment mean to you, just considering all the work that you put in with this program over the years?
I was pretty surprised just because of how many other great people that are on this team. But, I know I put in a lot of work and invest a lot of time into this team, so earning that was, really important to me. I had big brothers and hit their big brothers before them earn the #1 jersey, so it was really cool and neat thing for me.
Carmine, other than the presentation from Tyler Lancaster, have you had the opportunity to speak with any other former, #1 jersey wearers or anything like that? And I don't know, what does it mean to just be a part of this historic tradition that's, supposedly given to the best of the Wildcats?
Mm-hmm. So my big brother is actually Joe Spivak when I came in here, so he wore #1. So I always talk to him every once in a while, and obviously we talked about me earning the #1 and how cool that is and stuff, and his congratulations for me. And I've been talking to him about how he's been doing in the wrestling world and stuff, which has been pretty awesome to see him do well in that as well.
Matt?
For Braydon, Coach mentioned or officially stated that you're going to be starting at will linebacker this year. At what point in the offseason did you know you'd have that role, and what do you think you can bring to the table in that position?
Yeah, I mean, this offseason obviously was going into it ready to compete and do whatever I needed to do. I know that spring ball I was going into it just expecting to compete and try and earn that role. And then really, throughout this fall camp, getting the majority of the 1 reps, I started, maybe having a little bit of a feeling. And then post training camp meetings with Coach McGargle, he confirmed that I was going to be the will. And so, yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very humbled and honored. It's been, really a grind these past 4 years. And obviously you come to college wanting to start and get to play on the big stage. So I'm just excited and ready for that. And, yeah, I mean, I'm going to bring, everything I have, obviously. I think, my speed and athleticism is something I can bring to the table at the linebacker position. And so I'm just excited and grateful that I'll get to display that on Tulane and, be out there with all my brothers.
And what has your relationship with Mac Uline been? You've both been in the program for a long time now. With him as a returning starter next to you, both on and off the field, what's the bond been like since you now know that you're going to be starting next to him?
Yeah, I mean, I've been really close with Mac ever since my freshman year. He's actually one of my roommates. He's one of my closest friends on the team. So it's pretty cool to be out there with one of your best buddies, kind of getting to, do that together. We lived together the past 2 years. Last year, we were kind of switching at Mike linebacker before he really got to take that role over. And so it's pretty cool. I feel like there's a lot of chemistry already there. I mean, Carmine's another one of my roommates. So just, having all that chemistry not only in the linebacker room, but also with him and Aiden Hubbard on the D-line. It's a pretty cool feeling, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm really excited to get to attack, everything we got, with them this year. So.
Braydon, kind of following up on that, you've shown a knack on special teams for forcing fumbles. How important is it to bring that to the defense on a larger scale, and also for this defense as a whole to come up with more turnovers?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I think turnovers are a huge part of creating what we would call an explosive play on defense. Getting to get that ball back to our offense and let them go to work is going to be crucial for everybody. So obviously. We do, plenty of drills, attacking the ball, trying to get the ball out of the ball carrier's hands. So, that's for sure something that I'm going to hopefully, try and contribute to the defense. And I know that, everyone, Carmine obviously had a, forced fumble last year. So, we're all definitely seeking that and looking for, however we can, not only, affect the outcome of the game, but get the ball back in our offense's hands is something we're going to be trying to do.
This is for both you guys. A lot of changes to the program this offseason, a lot of stuff with the process and the structure, and Coach Braun seems to have really emphasized accountability. As you guys get closer to the season, what gives you guys confidence that this is going to be a more successful year than last season?
I think just the way we prepare and the way we're detail oriented this past season. I feel like we've looked at a lot of things and made some really hard decisions on maybe we should change this, but even though we've been doing this for so long. So like making those changes just because it's probably what's best for the team has been really important, and I think it'll help us in the long run for sure.
Yeah, kind of going off Carmine, I think, a big part of that has been, the player-led accountability this offseason. I think that's something that we really put an emphasis on and really stay true to through winter workouts, spring ball, summer workouts, now leading into the season. Those standards that, we set back in the winter haven't changed. And so I think that that's going to be something that consistency will definitely lead to success this year.
Carmine, when you think about just the injuries you had to battle through pretty much throughout the entirety of last season, what's it been like to have a healthy fall camp and really be able to be on the field leading the guys from the D-line?
It's been really exciting, and just it's been good to just like be around everybody and being able to like still voice my word and being able to show it on the field as well. I feel like sometimes when you're hurt, you kind of don't have that like credibility to show that. So being out there and being able to show this is what a good rep looks like and be able to talk through them on different reps and stuff like that is really important because you can't really lead if you're not really out there personally with them. So.
Braydon, as far as the linebacker group goes, obviously you and Mac returning and then two newcomers in Yanni and Jack. How have you guys pushed each other so far in camp, and what are your expectations and goals for that position group this fall?
Yeah, I mean, expectations obviously super high. We got Jack and Yanni, two guys that have, played a lot of football, in the arena on Saturdays. And so, yeah, I mean, expectations are sky high like normal. The standard we have for our linebackers is a standard that is very high and that has been set, for several years. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm expecting, a lot of, performance out of our room. And those are two guys that have been awesome additions. They fit in super well. They're great guys. We all have a great time together. So, yeah, it'll be standards is high, but, it's exciting and, we're going to have fun together. So.
Colleen?
Just kind of a follow-up question to the accountability thing that you were talking about. Was there a conversation among the team after the season when you talked about kind of there needed to be more player-led leadership? Just kind of how did the turning point come about, I guess?
I think first of all it was a small group of people talking with Coach Braun, and then from there we kind of just grew it to like a more of a leadership group. And kind of rebuilding that leadership group on the people that we think are best for that group. And then from there kind of having those conversations of what needs to be changed and stuff and like what kind of accountability we need to have for this team. I think that was the main kind of start to that.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.